Alan, I
Are we
see
saying
halfway there we got it.
be
Yes,
your
yes.
Valentine? Fantastic. This is where I want to be. And to the disappointed people on Facebook who will not this round be getting the Facebook Live
Shame.
integration because I got an error message. And to the three of us,
Oh,
what a beautiful trio we are here around our digital campfire. Welcome to the month of love, just the evening before Valentine's, the big apex of the red rose industry, and the great profit spike happening in the next 24 hours. So welcome to Be Your Valentine, which of course is a trigger tagline. Fear less, love more. It's all about a 360-degree overview of the different types of love, asking some questions. And I love starting with stories. So let me just dive into story number one. And it's my grandpa and grandma, Markutsia, 1991, and Numlock is unlocked. So 1991, married 50 years, taking you back a few years to 1991. I remember, it was this big, big event, 50 years of marital togetherness. And
okay.
they booked out a nice, like a venue in one of the hotels in Pretoria, where I grew up. And so the whole family, I mean, to the cousins and second cousins, it was a jam-packed hall, sitting in a square around the feast, awaiting us all. And the moment arrived for my grandfather to render the long-awaited speech, and myself, my 17-year-old self, back then, I vividly recall, firstly, my mane of curly brown hair. Please activate that in your imagination. And secondly, when he stood up and everybody shush and ting, ting, ting against their glasses, shush, Opa Hannes is going to do his thing now. And I remember what I had expected. I had this idealistic view. My grandfather was a very stern man. He was into construction, he was into property. He was all about rand and cent and structure and plans and real and action. And still, I wanted him on that 50th to literally drop to his knees and pluck out a bunch of red roses and say to my beloved story grandmother, say to her, after all these years, I can now say you type of, I love you. I've always loved you, and use the L word. Instead, Opa Hannes stood there. He put his hand on Oma Deline's shoulder and he said, Ma, as he used to call her, he said, Ma, after 50 years, I'm sure you can now see that I'm satisfied with you. I'm satisfied with us. That contentment, the Afrikaans tevrede. So I must say that that shocked me out of my wits, so much so that when I prepared for this evening's conversation, which starts off with me populating a word cloud, and then we're getting to Q and Q, your questions, and I question your questions a bit later. 50 years, and he said content, tevrede, satisfied, and that stayed with me. He's a very strong example in my life of balanced living. How to navigate life on this challenging planet with all of its complexities. So he's remained a very strong, from that aspect of love, he's remained a very strong influence in my life. And to say, okay, when I want to love in my personal sphere, which is family, friends, when I want to show love in my professional sphere or in public, where is that point of contentment? tevrede, satisfied with. And I think we're so influenced with uh, media, movies, etc., that keep on, in the movie, on the movie screen, in the pages of our romance novels,
Yeah.
on the news, etc., we get these spikes of, it's either this off the charts, cherry blossom, golden lens reality all the time, these extremes, or it's war and death and destruction, the sort of the opposite pole. So I want to ask a few questions here, uh, a few whys. Why is love such a big topic? Why do so many hesitate to love in all spheres or all relationships? And then, why is love such a money spinner in the economy? And a few submissions from you. Do you have any questions to add? Steve, hi Steve. Thank you for renaming your Samsung and welcome to you in person. Any questions you'd like to add? You can type in the chat box or audibly unmute yourself and say, sort of the why questions. Why questions in terms of, and we at the for the moment we're looking, and this is partly the answer, but we're looking at love as this glob, this blob, this huge thing that you can't put your arms around, which I think is one of the reasons why these questions exist. Do you have any questions in terms of love, any aspect of love that's been bugging you throughout your lives, Heta or Steve?
Yeah, I would say, why is love so complicated? Sometimes it seems to be complicated.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I love that. Steve, any submission from you? We can just continue. You can type in the chat box. You're welcome. I'll check there from time to time as well. Okay, so why is love such a big topic? Why do so many hesitate to love in all relationship? That thing of, okay, I'm not going to go all out at work with the professional love, the competence, the service, the products I can deliver. I'm not going to go as full out as I know I can. It's almost like the half-mile problem, which they've identified with professional athletes, where for some reason people can keep a murderous pace, champions in the marathon, and then in their last mile, the last kilometer and a half, it's like they're sprinters again. And then it's like this last mile problem. Like, why did you hold back on the previous 41 kilometers? And why all of a sudden this goal oriented sprint? Steve, thank you. It's as easy as we make it. Thank you for that submission. Okay, so why is love such a money spinner in the economy? These extremes they paint for us, and then how they make wonderful sales in terms of box office, in terms of books, in terms of movies, and the complications of love. I love that, and just in terms of wordplay, um, I'm not going to be able to. L'œuf in French is egg. Egg in French is one of the root words for love. Um, and I also love that egg in French, the potential of the egg, the life that can grow from within in terms of love. That's also where the tennis 40 love came from, is the original French I wanted to add into the mix here. So asking these questions, I think we can park them for now. It's good to have these big questions about the big globular topic. In terms of characters around us, I did videos in the build up to this webinar about the various types of love, the various shades of love, and I looked back at what the old Greeks used to say. They had a wonderful eye for the love types, and before we drill into some of those, I took one of the greatest challenges, and that is the love thy enemy. Love thy enemies, or love your enemies. Love your enemies. Invitation or instruction which we find in religious and spiritual literature. Love your enemies. And how might one love one's enemies? Throwing that into the mix as well. Enemies being perhaps part of the public sphere, perhaps part of the professional sphere, perhaps part of the very tight-knit family and friend circle where I might be friends with someone who regularly pays me a visit, but the person's spouse or life partner might be seen as enemy. So how can we love our enemies? Steve, do you have some drawing capabilities on my screen? This is
I
very interesting.
see. Yeah. I see a red line,
Yes,
like a.
I like the red line um, in the screen sharing. This is very interesting. Steve, how did you manage to achieve that? Uh, is my Zoom more open than I had previously thought? Love your enemies. How and why to love enemies? And I suggested acceptance is key. I have enemies. I have enemies in the greater public sphere, as well as professionally speaking. People who don't know me from a bar of soap. We will all have histories, personal histories, where people don't know us from a bar of soap in our story at school, at tertiary institutions, and during our professional lives, in our neighborhoods, in our families. We will have stories where people dislike us on a scale from dislike to full on antagonism, in terms of being enemy, being against us, literally being resistant to our very existence. And the acceptance is so important in that respect. Acceptance is key that enemies will exist by virtue of the fact that we are such diverse individuals. If we look at true diversity, which resides in the individual, or in the individuality of humans. I mean, I have a story of, in my teenage years, one of the popular boys at school who didn't ever speak one word to me, but I could see he's so antagonistic towards me. Every time there was a game where we would have to throw each other with balls or whatever during physical training, he would literally target me for the entire period or two, and being out to get me, out to hurt, etc. After school, after our school years, he came back and he said, it was wonderful. Like, sorry for being such a jerk. Let's have a beer. And we actually became friends. We recently celebrated that on our 30 years matric reunion. But so we'll have stories of people who don't know us, in our small circles, close circles, all the way to other nations making war against our nations, or people who put themselves under the blanket of faith systems or religions. So the acceptance is key. I have enemies. And then how to make the most of my enemies. I can use them as inspiration to bring out the best in me. I can craft a healthy rivalry. Like some of these wonderful athletes and some of the tennis players we see on the world stage, how they compete to that incredible intense extent. However, you can see there's a very beautiful amicable friendship that they are in that together. They are performing together for the people interested in their sport. A healthy rivalry, at least from my side. Then I also shared the Life of Pi example, where there was a tiger on the boat with a boy on the ocean. And at the end of this story, he thanked the tiger, which obviously threatened his life. And he also threatened the tiger's life. You know, they were literally in a battle for survival on the boat, saying, I'm going to always be wary of where you are on the boat as we cross the ocean after their ship had sunk. And then when they eventually both made it to the coast of Canada, or a bit further down south, he reflected back afterwards and said, had it not been for the life-threatening tiger on his boat, he would not have had that alertness, that his focus would have been probably on, I only have salt water, I no longer have fresh water, I don't have any more fish. The ocean washed my inventory overboard, etc. Instead, he had the focus on this deadly tiger on the boat. So, question is, so he thanked the tiger for keeping him alive. And the question is, who is our tiger on the boat that we can thank now?
Yes.
That we can thank now. And oftentimes it will not be easy or even possible to thank this deadly enemy in family, in friendship circles, particularly in the workplace, where it's all about, you know, staying within the rules and staying outside of disciplinary issues. It may not even be possible to verbally thank, but there are other ways to thank. And this is where our weapons of mass creation, our trusty journals, our little black books or big black books, regularly reflecting on our day, before our day, during our day, after our day, short check-ins, but just to identify these people in our personal, our professional, and even the public sphere. Give you an example, myself and my son are almost always on the road somewhere in our day with a dog in our streets. And there are some streetwalkers here in Bloemfontein where we live who are actually dangerously antagonistic from time to time, even though I always try to say, I see you, greetings to you, peace to you, that kind of thing. So, you know, even saying, okay, can we be thankful for them? Can we have the full joy of the great outdoors, the fresh air, you know, the buzzing city, everything we love about being here, and at the same time be thankful for the antagonistic anonymous person. So this is a challenge and an invitation which I'd like to render here is, can you identify writing, making character maps, your personal sphere, professional sphere, and in public, groups or individuals, and preferably individuals. The more individual, the better. Identify these individuals that you create an awareness in you of them, and then start working on them. I call it the Pearl method. Yes, of course, the fact that they are there, the fact that we become now even more aware of their antagonism, their animosity, etc., towards us, could create great discomfort. However, that is how pearls are formed. A pearl is formed by the oyster literally enduring that discomfort of some external element entering its soft flesh, and then layer by layer adding, smoothing, and then we harvest these beautiful pearls. However, it's the duration of time, the acceptance of that issue, and then putting these layers on top. So this is my invitation to you experiencing this webinar, as I invite myself as well, is how to identify and thank our enemies for the value they individually contribute to our lives. Like oysters accepting the comfort of, let's call it, alien matter, and creating pearls over time. So that's something for you, a theme for you to think about, is the enemies. Love thy enemy. And what kind of love could one ask? Getting into some of the love types. The love I experienced with my grandfather and grandmother, they would end up journeying together 66 years. And my grandfather was still active in his construction and landlording, etc. And it's in one of his appointments en route to one of his appointments that a motor accident claimed his life. And they journeyed together for 66 years. It's like get your kicks from Route 66. And the Greeks coined a love type which I absolutely adore, called Pragma. Root word for pragmatic, pragmatist, and action, endearing love. Endearing love. And for me, this is the best love type, endearing love. I call it, you're also a diesel engine fan like me, diesel engine love. You know, that low torque, low rev, high torque power. It's just tick, 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 just ticking over, but unstoppable. And that was my grandfather, my grandmother, just ticking over, you know, enjoying what their lives brought for them, taking their challenges head on, but just diesel engineering it through it, creating pearls of their days. I always remember how also they had the music in the evenings, you know, when everything calmed down, the balmy Pretoria evenings, the music on the stoop with the multicolored lights, and their favorite music that they would, with their white wine and often a braai or a nice dinner with friends and family, that kind of thing. Just ending the day like a pearl, whatever the day brought, that pragma. And I suggest that pragma, the endearing love, it's endearing love is there's grit, there's the gritting of the teeth in that kind of love, which I also relate then to the pearl, saying, this thing is uncomfortable in my soft flesh, I'm going to accept it and endure and add the layers, that it becomes that pearl, pragma pearl. So I suggest that the activation in your own self conversations, when you try to generate gratitude and appreciation for the personal, professional, and public enemies you perceive, pragma is a great route to go, because pragma is absolutely up to you. Pragma is up to you. Your own resilience, your own inner work is absolutely up to you. So you have full control over your endearing love. Over many of the other love types, like friendship love, romantic love, these kind of things, oftentimes other love types require reciprocity, which means there's another party or other parties involved. And then the moment that another party is involved, we have no control over them. However, over our pragma, at our core, our resilience, our begin again every single day, seeing every single day for the possible pearl or the possible layer of, let's call it mother of pearl essence that I can add to whatever is challenging me or whatever is grating me or whatever is causing discomfort. Pragma, I think, is a fantastic central love type to bring into your armory and to become aware of. Oh, okay. All of these other love types, and we're going to deal with one or two of them. All of these other love types require reciprocity from other parties. However, pragma is up to you. And that brings me to, of course, self-love. Philautia, self-love, also up to you. Self-love with pragma, up to you. Oftentimes we get external messages about who we are, who we're supposed to be, what our identity is supposed to be. We grow up culturally, we grow up in a culture, and we get these external, it's like trellis, right? We get this trellis for the whatever plant or whatever tree we might be as individuals. We obviously get trellis, we get structure from people who love us and from people who don't love us. In our society, it takes a village to raise every single one of us. It takes a nation state. You can also say that's a village. So self-love, in my experience as leadership and life coach, self-love is by far the greatest challenge. I think it's the key to open. If there's an increase in self-love, love is the key to greater pragma or enduring love. Self-love must be the foundation from which your enduring love and all the other love types will grow and will progress throughout your lifetime. So if the foundation is weak, my late father had this beautiful saying. He said, you can't shoot a cannonball from a canoe. So if your self-love, your relationship with yourself, you're looking into the mirror, looking into your own eyes, looking at that spark until you know what that spark is about. You're listening to your own voice notes, realizing that, oh, other people actually hear me like my voice notes. And they don't hear me like I hear myself in the cathedral, which is my skull and my chest. Your acceptance of your photos as they are today, selfies as they are today, and also realizing that your face in the mirror is actually switched around. Certain camera angles can give you how other people see you and say, okay, this is actually how others see me, not how I see me in the mirror. All these angles, plus the self-activated writing out work. At school, they used to give us write that out 100 times on the blackboard. As adults, as maturing, deepening adults, we can, if we want to deepen our self-leadership, we can give ourselves writing out work to do. So all these angles to getting to know yourself creates that solid base. And if that is a canoe, in other words, it is weak, it cracks easily, it lets the water in, the water of despair, the water of anxiety, what life will always bring us, the water of uncertainty about the future, uncertainty about the past, also wonderful discoveries that the historians are making in every age. So this thing of self-love being the base, strong base, through selfie videos, audio, journaling, mirror time, literally mirror time. This is my face on 13 February 2024. And to say, okay, how much do I accept this face? Whatever else physicality I would like to observe as a base for all the other love types. And if we look at the heading of tonight's webinar, fear less, love more. Oftentimes, people think that the opposite of love is hate. However, if you drill down into it, hate is probably just some kind of a destructive emotion, which doesn't actually have anything to do with love, but it is born from not the absence of love or a low level of love, but it is probably born from fear, which is what takes hold of us in the absence of love, personally speaking, professionally speaking, and in public. The fear of the other. If that grows to a certain extent or to a certain expanse, then it is probably, and it's one of these deep-seated issues which we can debate for hours on end. However, it does stand to reason that hate isn't just something which happens in the absence of love. In the absence of love can be apathy or some kind of neutrality, but it's in the active, that uncertainty, that growing uncertainty, that growing fear. I actually want to get further away from professional or personal or public, personal, group A, B, or C, because we don't know, we don't understand, we don't get to know. Because the moment that we see how human someone else is, that bubble of fear pops immediately. It is often stated that the heads of state of warring states are the real warmongers. The soldiers on either side, the people walking the streets on either side of either country, even though they are being propagandized to hate and to fear the other. If you have the moment to put people from ordinary walks of life and even the soldiers across a table from each other without knowing that they have the different nationalities or that which they are supposed to hate, then they realize, oh my word, the sameness, the alignment is so high. So self-love as the base, fear as the opposite of love. It's probably fear of the unknown. Is also a great barrier to keep chipping away at. That fear, because it's very natural. Fear of a stranger is biologically natural. Once again, our experience on our morning routes or our afternoon routes with the dogs in the neighborhood, when we get into when there's vehicles in both lanes or in all four lanes of the road, and we are on the sidewalk, myself and maybe it's our aggressive dog, Lucky's, who's with us, and then I know here's a stranger coming on, and even though we've got the aggressive dog, sometimes we've got the friendly dog, Bella, with us, and then it's like this thing of, okay, it's just natural. Somebody I've never seen before, they're walking towards me, and just at a very primal level, there's this figuring out, how is this going to go? And it's so natural that we can accept it and say, it will always be true, and it should be true. If you have any self-preservation or self-protection, which is part of self-love embodied in you, some stranger approaches, and there's this comfort zone. There's a zone of literally every individual that I work with. I have these conversations and say, when you are at a table with someone you don't know, where do you feel comfortable and uncomfortable? How far, how close? when you walk in the street like we do, or in public, in a mall, wherever, you know, and there's a line, somebody's coming towards you. What kind of, how close can you walk past somebody and feel comfortable or uncomfortable? If you walk right towards somebody on a narrow path like we do with the dogs, how does that work? Where's that moment where you got to start making plans and saying greetings to you, or peace be upon you? We've got a Sesotho saying "Khotso ntate" or "Khotso me," which literally is peace be upon you. Just saying, I wish you peace. And it's just a greeting on the one hand. On the other hand, there's this beautiful underlying thing of it's very natural that we need to know where the other person stands. So that's great practice. To get into public, in the workplace as well, and see where you can chip away wherever you might harbor these fears of the unknown in the other. And it's completely natural to also accept that fact. Accept that fear or uncertainty is just completely natural. My favorite kind of love, playful love. The Greeks called it ludus, ludicrous. I love it. The root word of ludicrous. And people say, oh, that's ludicrous. But it comes from ludus, playful love. The gamification of life. The gamification of life. To see life as a game. And a serious game. I want to say serious play. My sister used to say when we were growing up. Her friends would say in Afrikaans, let's net speel. Which is saying make believe. What we're doing now is just make believe. And my sister would say, in this house, we don't speel. We speel regtig. We truly speel. We speel seriously. And I love that as a monument also in my personal history, saying that you can gamify, you can try to generate that sense of play through much of your day with a good deal of seriousness. And we're going to get to seriousness and as it plays out into mania and obsession as well. So playful love, an invitation to us all to say, how can we, when we plan our day, plan it like a game? And there's going to be the field. We know what the field of our day is like. Where are the boundaries, plus, minus? We know the rules at home, at work, in public, in traffic. We know the rules. However, if you step onto a soccer field like we do Sunday afternoons, it's the same field every Sunday, the same goals every Sunday. We mix up the teams every Sunday, so it's never the same teams. And then the moves on the field, the weather, whatever the case may be, there are so many variables coming into play. So that playful love, gamifying life is just an invitation which I would like to drop, which I think is an ingredient that we can, if we permeate as much of our day with ludus, the playful love, or at least the I'm busy with the game, even though it feels insurmountably tough. If we can practice and train ourselves to bring that almost as part of our baseline, it can strengthen our self-love and self-acceptance. It can strengthen our pragma. Why do we keep on with pragma or with enduring love? Maybe because the joy of the game is part of our mix. And maybe that was one of my grandmother and grandfather's success ingredients in their recipe, is that they had this gamified. It's a game. We visit with friends at the end of the day, and until then, we work and we work and we work and we out in the sun and we build new things and we try new projects, ever expanding, ever growing, and it's a game. And it's a serious game, serious play. So getting into just a message in here. Okay. It's someone who will get the video. Message in here. Then in terms of serious play, let me see what I think I wanna. We're only gonna have time. We've dealt with the haters. I want to deal with yeah, Valentine's Day. So we'll end off on a sexy note, or a stereotypical, a commercialized sexy note. Until then, um, mania or obsession as a love type, obsessive love, and of course, manic this and manic that, part of many diagnoses that the Greeks coined: mania, obsessive love. And it's interesting that fixation. I'm working with a client who's bringing a new entertainment phenomenon to Central South Africa, and her first event is already a marvelous success, and was already 14 days before the event. She was sold out, a wonderful success.
Wow.
And she's got this wonderful ability to focus to a point of just complete fixation, complete obsession. And when I observed her, she came to me, she said she's worried about this characteristic. And when I said to her, okay, but map it out for me, tell me, when does it happen, how does it manifest, etc. Then she said, but it's when she had like a deadline in her various professional endeavors, and also with this brand new project, which is stretching boundaries and pioneering a lot of what previous creative types have tried in the area. And she's breaking through, she's making it. And then in conversation, it came to the fore, but that's actually healthy obsession, which I love. And Heta, I know you're a swimmer as well. The whole thing of immersion. I love emotion and immersion. So let's call it emotional immersion. Um, and it's emotional and rational, so it's complete. And I don't want to say completeness equals emotional plus rational, but just to try to cover an umbrella around the totality of what thoughts we can have. An array of rational and emotional thoughts. They're probably all thoughts, and throughout our nervous system, we experience them in our bodies, etc. Total immersion in whatever I have to or want to accomplish next. Just as something, as an invitation, something for you to think about, is that sometimes we're obsessed about something which leads to self-destruction. I've got examples in my own family history of substance abuse, for instance. Obsession, getting into that dwindling spiral of addiction, and self-destruction at the end. That's the moth around the flame. However, when I look at our solar system hurtling through space at an alleged cool 800,000 kilometers per hour, and I see our Earth faithfully mothing around the flame, which is our sun, and keeping its distance, and that sustains life for the moment. We might be heading towards some cosmic war, and then it was very nice to speak to you here tonight. But when I look at the Earth, that's for me a model of there's a moth around the flame. It can't get enough of the sun. It's around the sun every 360, 65 and some quarter days, every single time, and it can't get enough of that. It can't get away from the sun. However, it doesn't drift further away, or not significantly in cosmic terms, and it doesn't get too close that we scorch. We have another scorched earth policy by our life source. So healthy obsession is something which I would like to create inception with here in these moments. How can you employ healthy obsession? With planning, with self-knowledge, with looking in the mirror, with journaling, with mapping out your characters of enemies and friends and family, really creating this beautiful cast of characters for your life, from public to really intimately personal. And then to say, I dance with all these people in my professional, personal, play, etc. endeavors. So when it's time for tennis with friends, when it's time for soccer, when it's time for picnic, when it's time for recreation, when it's time for work, when it's time for traffic, that beautiful thing of fully immersed in that activity and saying, okay, I'm stuck in traffic. And it's uh, a wonderful irony there, because I am traffic. I'm not stuck in traffic. I am traffic. Say, okay, we are stuck. We, the traffic, are stuck at the moment. And what kind of emotional and rational immersion can happen there? And how can it be constructive? Perhaps the stuck in being traffic, contributing to the stuckness of traffic, can actually get us to a place of self-reflection, maybe tapping into an inspirational podcast in traffic instead of listening to the news of some other world event. So I want to put healthy mania out there in front of you and say, try it on and see what it does for you. And you'll see that as I touch on each of these elements, I'm sensitizing you to their existence and some aspects of these love types. And then it's going to be over to you to say, if I extend my self love a little there, and I extend my love for friends a little there, and I expand my love for enemies like this and this and this, public, personal, and professional, you'll look back after days and weeks and say, oh my word, I'm experiencing less fear and more love in general. You're finding the playfulness returning a little bit more every single day. The pragma, the endearing love, returning a little bit more every day. So you'll find that I'm working around the main fire of why do we fear and why is there not more love in the world? By saying, if we tweak these different types of love for each of our stories, each of our individualities, there's a very good chance that we're just going to keep on expanding and growing, which I believe, is there a path to love, or is there a way to love? People might say, if you do that and that and that and that, then I might grow to love you. Sure, there could be truth in that. However, what I'm suggesting and asking is, perhaps love is the way, like happiness. Is there a way to happiness? No, you can try. It'll be like the rainbow, always elusive. Or the decision to be happy, or the decision to love within all these aspects. Perhaps that's a better way to negotiate the complexities of our day, coming back to the complexities of love. And then I want to end off with on an erotic note. Eros, and obviously, just wow, erotic love, etc., etc., etc. And yes, the Airbnb and hotel industry tomorrow night. Yeah, I see adverts all around us, even in my own very close network of, hey, romantic breakaway just for tomorrow night, Airbnb in your own town. Just leave the kids with grandma and grandpa. There's this beautiful, idyllic outside showers, very private and everything. And then when I read up about what the original intention of eros and erotic love spanned in terms of definition, this is literally originally this is the original life force. I see it very closely related to, from a spiritual perspective, soul, spirit, that the animating factor, the factor that says biological organisms want to create more of them. So eros is that essence, literally that the primal energy driving all of biology. And I love that angle, to say, oh, okay, erotic, and we get this genre these days. We get this genre picture of what kind of books, what kind of films, eroticism, right? And may we claim back erotic and eros as part of the different love types, and say, but okay, wow, let me honor the primal life force in me and use it to creative ends in terms of what I want to achieve in my life's goal structure. And with that, before we get to Q&Q, questions, and me questioning your questions, thank you very much for being here on the digital fireside. I'm looking forward to sharing this with those whom technology cut off from us on the Facebook Live and all other platforms that I advertised it on and got some interest from. So thank you very much for listening to my monologue. Are there any questions, submissions, takeaways that you'd like to submit into the mix? Steve, Heta?
I can begin to say, at least my overall impression is that, let's say, it's not that love is complex, it's layered, and you've unpacked so many layers, which is very nice. Well, nice is not the good word or the best word, but
it's like
it makes it more.
It's like Oleg in Afrikaans, yes.
Yeah, it's more accessible. It makes love more accessible to me to think about it along all the different layers you outlined. And I strongly relate to the idea of loving your enemies at work. I fully understand because I can see the pattern. I'm on my second sort of a enemy type boss, and some other colleagues also, but I'm learning to negotiate it quite well. So
Wonderful.
it's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm becoming stronger at handling it, I think. And I as you talked through the different layers, I enjoyed what you had to say about those.
I'm glad,
And the imagery you used and so on, because I think we tend to slim it down to, only some aspects. So this made it a lot richer for me. And I recognize that you're quite right. At my age, I have gone through a couple of adventures or whatever. One gets to a point where fear does enter. So
it's natural. It's natural to identify it and to use it. Use the fear. Use the fear as, of course, away from elements of the fear, but then use it to get to knowledge, to greater understanding. So much of what we fear can disappear through knowledge and greater understanding. And some things like the proverbial tiger escaping from the zoo, of course, we need to just properly fear that and run away. Thank you very much.
Certainly. Yes, thanks. Lovely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Steve, from your side, apart from your amazing red stripe and your submission on the chat, anything from you as parting shot? Thank you very much for your contributions here. I'll be in touch with an invitation around the love types as well by email and other means. Thanks a lot, and have a blessed evening. Much love to all.
Yeah, now we must do the kids thing. We must do the little.
So. I really love that. And then, like our hearing impaired, I put it on my chest, the love to myself and the love to the same time. It's like a cycle. Have a great one.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Appreciate your time. Thanks for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.